Who cares that an 85-year-old American vitamin retail business is going to be acquired through a bankruptcy sale by a Chinese company, right? Well, it seems a few powerful and loud voices have stepped up to share their feelings surrounding the GNC bankruptcy sale. Do you remember the GNC video I did last month that I was claiming this hopefully was going to be the last video of 2020 that I was going to be talking about their bankruptcy sale? Well, it looks like the universe had a much different idea and is laughing at me because I have to put out another video and arguably probably have to put out another one.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one.
Hopefully not anything past that point other than maybe some financial updates. But on this video, let's just pull off the Band-Aid real quick and discuss around Florida Senator Marco Rubio sending the following letter to the Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. So I wanted to highlight a few of the phrases from the letter. You could see this on the screen if you're watching this on the video. Harbin Pharmaceutical is a Chinese pharmaceutical company that describes itself as a state-controlled Sino-foreign equity joint venture. The ownership of an American health and nutrition company with sensitive data on millions of customers and retail locations on and around military installations across the U.S. by a Chinese state-directed entity possesses serious risk to U.S. national security. The Chinese government engages in persistent efforts to obtain a broad range of sensitive American personal data through illicit means such as state-sponsored theft from government agencies and private companies. The acquisition of a major health and nutrition chain with over 5,200 retail stores in the U.S. and an expansive customer base presents the opportunity for state-directed actors to purchase this information legally. Efforts to obtain personal and sensitive data related to health information and financial transactions of U.S. persons must be reviewed with an understanding of the foreign policy and intelligence aims of the Chinese government and Communist Party. Therefore, Marco Rubio requests a full review of the transaction by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. For those that don't follow the U.S. politician landscape all that much, Marco Rubio is arguably one of the biggest hardliners against China. Anytime you hear anything going on in terms of like China and US, you're going to hear some commentary from Marco Rubio. And this is also following a few other people that expressed some concern around the transaction to Steven Mnuchin a week prior to that. I think House Representative member from Florida as well, Bill Posey, and also a advocacy group called the Coalition for a Prosperous America. If you've not heard of Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, it is basically the regulatory review arm of foreign ownership of an American-based company, and it decides if there is any kind of security risk. And the GNC Harbin Pharmaceutical transaction, at least the one that was in February of 2018, already passed this CFIUS review. But there was, I think about 6 or so months later, there was an additional kind of, I think, update to it that happened from President Trump. And there could be something that needs to be reviewed under that update that happened in August. But it also could be like safe harbored in because it was prior to that date. But at the heart of this concern, there's kind of 3 areas. I'll talk about a 4th one that I don't think is all that big of a deal. But the first one is around the customer data. And GNC, that's been around for 85 years and obviously has millions and millions and millions of transactions from the American public. They have a ton of different customer data and financial data on American citizens, is a concern. Personal data is one of the most valuable commodities in the world today. Rubio went on to state in, I think, an interview that he believes that big data, customer information is what the world is getting built on. There's a lot of connections to national security, how you build intelligence systems, and then also just how you sell commercial goods in the United States. And he believes just giving all this over to China that obviously has a ton of ambitions to be a global power bigger than the United States. If we're just going to approve this transaction, it's honestly shooting America in the foot. Second concern is around like military locations. And GNC has had a number of locations on military bases for as long as I can remember. They are on pretty prominent bases in a few cases. I believe that one of which is on Patrick Air Force Base, which also does a lot of things around NASA. There's some concerns on that level as a whole, because if you do grant access to maybe Chinese officials or anybody that needs to get onto GNC because of their business, they might figure out some way to inundate it. Not to say that it could happen or will happen or there's even a big chance of that happening, but it's one of those red flags that get thrown up because of GNC having retail locations on US military bases. The third area is just around overall environment with China in terms of trade tensions. Obviously, President Trump has been a hardliner on the trade policies. And anytime you are seeing prominent business around US and China kind of happening, and there might be some transactions or anything that's happening around customer data or any concerns overall, you are seeing a lot of the political ecosystem kind of speak up if they are hardliners on China. So that's just kind of an overall macro thing that's happening just with relationship tensions from China and the US. And it's something that I think has been understated throughout this whole transaction. I think that was a concern that was brought up by myself and a lot of industry experts back when they announced it a couple years ago with that strategic partnership and investment with Harbin Pharmaceutical, but it seemed to die down. And after they did pass that first CFIUS review, I think most of us were like, okay, well, it's fine. They've been able to kind of partition that off, no big deal. But it looks like it is now becoming a concern again. The fourth one that was brought up by Bill Posey, not necessarily Marco Rubio, was around like food safety. And I think maybe he was misunderstanding the GNC business as a whole. He was really concerned around food safety. I'm really not all that concerned. I understand that supplements overall is a part of the FDA, and there's a bunch of things that you need to be worried about with goods, and a lot of the supply side of the industry comes from China and Asian countries, and maybe there's some concerns when you're having that direct impact. But because GNC did sell off their manufacturing business to International Vitamin Corporation as well, I think last year, that kind of draws the concern away from me. I think that concern is just overall in the industry. I don't think that is anything above and beyond with GNC because of their relationship with Harbin Pharmaceutical, and just so happens that Harbin Pharmaceutical is the second biggest pharmaceutical company in China. I don't necessarily think that there's any more concern above and beyond just general industry concern. Now, outside of just the concerns from some of those powerful political voices, GNC did just finish their deadline in terms of getting bidders for the Chapter 11 bankruptcy auction. The only known other bidder other than Harbin Pharmaceutical is an Ohio-based private equity firm called Dynamic Ventures. I tried to look at and tried to get a bunch of information on them. Honestly, couldn't find too much around them, so I'm not exactly sure like how serious of a bidder they are. But regardless, Harbin Pharmaceutical has the inside track. They are the largest shareholder. They have board members. They have a bunch of different things that any deal that gets on place, it has to be approved by GNC. They're going to have a big hand in this. So if they're safe harbored from anything from the CFIUS review or anything around the political voices kind of drawing concerns here, unless some other bidders kind of came to light in the last hour and they were some serious bidders, ones that maybe were interested in the retailer years and years ago, maybe came out of the woodwork, you just never know, then Harbin Pharmaceutical will honestly be the winner of the auction for GNC. Now, for whatever reason, if they don't pass anything with CFIUS or they don't allow it, the government doesn't allow this sale, then if it's just Dynamic Ventures, they'll be able to ask for like an extension, try to get money for the deal or whatever kind of things they need to get done to try to make this transaction a real deal for them. Or they need to maybe extend and look for new offers on the market right now, or go with a different restructuring plan that actually is on their own. And this has been a concern by some of like the unsecured creditors have brought up in a number of like court motions and things of that nature, saying like, it looks like an inside job. It looks like GNC is rushing to get this Harbin Pharmaceutical deal done. They don't think the price is really been supported by GNC. They think that there's probably a better deal out there. They also think that there hasn't been a bunch of marketing by GNC for this sale of themselves. I mean, they did put out that huge kind of document. A lot of it was thrown in different investment decks from years ago, and it painted a pretty realistic picture. I don't know if anybody would be interested in over $750 million. Honestly, I've talked about it in a bunch of different videos that I think that number is high enough. So I don't know where these unsecured creditors are really coming up with a bunch of this information, but they're stating, hey, maybe there's somebody else out there. They haven't done enough of marketing, or maybe it's just better for them to go on themselves. Maybe that's a better value. Move on their own on a standalone restructuring plan. I do want to end this video with just an official response from GNC regarding all of this. They said, nothing is more important to GNC than the trust of our customers. Our customer data is safeguarded by rigorous standards, and none of it is accessible to any foreign nationals. Harbin's controlling stake in GNC was subject to thorough review for any U.S. national security implications by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States in 2018. That transaction was approved, and no facts or circumstances have changed to call the committee's support into question. We will continue to work with all relevant agencies throughout the restructuring process and maintain our rigorous standards for data privacy in compliance with all applicable law. So odds are you're going to be hearing another video from me. Just stay tuned if you guys are interested in the saga that's happening on the GNC bankruptcy deal. If you guys have any questions around this or GNC as a whole, make sure you guys are leaving a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.